What's up, Taiwan? I'm Ethan Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. President-elect Ching-te will travel to the Pacific next week and visit Taiwan's 3 remaining diplomatic allies in the region. But the government is keeping tight-lipped on details about U.S. transit stopovers that anger Beijing. Rick Lauer has more from Taipei.
Well, Taiwan's President Ching-te is going to make his first official overseas trip since he took office next week. This morning, the presidential office told us some of the details of the trip. He's going to visit Taiwan's 3 diplomatic allies in the Pacific. That's Tuvalu, Palau, and the Marshall Islands. The aim of the trip is to build friendship and build economic resilience and democracy. These are 3 of just 12 countries around the world that recognize Taiwan as a country. That's because China claims Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory and puts pressure on other countries not to recognize Taiwan as a nation. It's also been whittling down Taipei's diplomatic allies, which makes trips like these really important for Taiwan to shore up those relationships. Significantly, the presidential office did not confirm reports that Lai will stop off in the United States. It's expected that he will transit in Hawaii or Guam, though there are gaps in his schedule. Taiwan's leaders use trips like this to make stopovers in the US, an unofficial ally, but also another very important relationship for Taiwan. China has in the past staged military drills after such stopovers. This is a very short trip for Lai. He'll be away for just about a week, but he'll be dealing with some of Taiwan's most pressing geopolitical issues. That's maintaining influence in the Pacific and maintaining a relationship with the United States without overly antagonizing China. Justin Wu and Rick Lauer in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
8 teams from Taiwan's Industrial Technology Research Institute were honored at an annual Innovation Award ceremony. Taiwan's wins at the 2024 R&D 100 Awards included innovations in energy efficiency for chips and AI development, as well as those reducing carbon emissions across industries. All represent major goals for Taiwan, but often come at a cost of one another, a challenge these innovations hope to overcome. A draft climate finance deal that's short on detail has triggered discontent at the COP29 summit in Baku.
Less than 48 hours before finishing, the critical objective of this COP is right now an empty placeholder. There is not a clear quantum defined by donors, so we are negotiating on nothing.
The latest draft arrived several hours late with key information missing about how much wealthy countries should contribute in climate aid. Details on climate mitigation have also come under fire, with some countries saying the new text weakens last year's fossil fuel commitments. Taiwan is unable to officially participate in the COP29 conference due to objections from China, but that doesn't mean it's not paying attention. To learn more about Taiwan's climate goals, Chris Gorin sat down for an exclusive interview with Environment Minister Chih-peng in Taipei.
As we are recording this, it's the last day of the COP29 climate conference. The parties have not yet come to an agreement on a deal for financing climate projects in developing countries. Unfortunately, Taiwan is not able to participate officially in the summit, but Taiwan does sometimes adopt international standards of agreements that it's not a party to. So I'd like to ask you, any agreement that does come out of COP29, does Taiwan plan to adopt those same standards?
Although we cannot join, I still have some, our think tank and also our professor linked with the Ministry of Environment still go there. And I can promise to the world, we will follow the UNFCCC standard.
This year's COP29 is focused on climate financing for projects in developing countries. Yes. Currently, does Taiwan have any plan to provide this kind of financing to developing countries? And if so, how much?
Based on the global treaties, and before that, the global UNFCCC, they have a climate fund. And 1 year is about $100 billion US dollars. And this year, they hope it can 10 times, more than 10 times. And I think in Taiwan, because we contribute about 0.5% of the carbon emission, actually we should contribute, we should pay some money for this. So if we are the member of the UNFCCC, and probably we can join. It's what we should do. But recently we cannot.
Taiwan has a policy of reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050, but it faces some major challenges there. If we take electricity, for example, less than 10% of that is from renewables, and even though the use of renewables has gone up, it's basically been offset by the reduction in nuclear power. So the result is that since 2020, about 80% of Taiwan's power comes from fossil fuels. So I'd like to ask you, how does Taiwan plan to address this major gap between its climate goals of reaching net zero and its heavy reliance on fossil fuels?
The fossil fuel have two types. One is coal. The coal have lots of the carbon emissions, and the gas was lower, and it's about 60% of the carbon than the coal. So when we transition away the coal, maybe 10 years later, to the gas, is a huge transition about the carbon intensity. So I think in the next 5 years, the renewable energy will increase, maybe about 25 to 30% in 2030. And about the nuclear, actually, my premier and also president is quite open.
So it sounds like this will take several years to implement, but I want to ask you, how does that square with the huge increase in electricity demand that Taiwan is facing? The economy minister said this week that TSMC, which is Taiwan's largest user of electricity, uses about 8% of all of Taiwan's electricity, may build a new factory every year for the next 10 years, and that the government needs to prepare the infrastructure for that kind of electricity use. So what would you say to those that argue that Taiwan is prioritizing AI over its climate goals?
So right now, the energy demand is totally, the government, especially the Thai Power, can provide the energy. So don't worry about this. We have some plan about the new gas power stations soon, and actually also the renewable energy. So right now in our cabinet, we are starting the new tools about this, but not traditional, the nuclear power station.
If you need to meet that extra demand, is the solution basically to just use more gas?
Yes, actually, use the gas right now is the trend for the global. You can check the Singapore. Singapore, their gas usage is about 95% of the gas. So they want to use power lines from Australia, Indonesia, and Malaysia for the renewable energy. So such is this kind of thinking, probably in our cabinet, we talk about this. Any kind of opportunities or any potential, we can try.
That was Chris Gorin speaking with Taiwan Environment Minister Chi-Ming-pong. Donald Trump's pick for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has denied a sexual assault allegation from 2017.
The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared, and that's from the legal. Thank you very much.
A woman filed a sexual assault complaint against Hegseth in the state of California, but prosecutors did not charge him due to a lack of evidence. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has tapped the former Fox News TV host to lead the Defense Department. His confirmation still requires Senate approval. A top National Security Bureau official had been impeached for sexual assault. Video footage shows Major General Shi Jinghua forcibly kissing a woman on the side of a road in February. The government's watchdog agency says he had been drinking alcohol and lied during an internal investigation. Agency officials unanimously voted to remove Shi from office. His behavior has drawn widespread condemnation.
谢晋华酒后失态强吻女子，严重伤害国安局的形象，还有台湾民众的信任。监察院以全票通过了对谢晋华的弹劾，这无疑对现在军纪的涣散还有废弛敲响了警钟。
Shi's case will now be handed to the disciplinary court for trial. The recent suicide of a government worker has put fresh focus on bullying in the workplace. Fellow civil servants say the law does not protect them or give them effective tools to fight back. And as John Van Tres reports, they're taking to the streets to demand change.
职场霸凌法制化，职场霸凌法制化，公务人员组工会，公务人员组工会。
government workers gather outside the cabinet building to remember one of their own, lost to suicide early this month after intense working hours and severe workplace bullying. The death of this labor ministry employee has made political waves, toppled the labor minister, and launched debate about how well Taiwan's laws protect against workplace abuses. But amid the uproar, public employees say there's one fact that's been overlooked. These protections don't apply to them. In Taiwan, government workers are treated differently. The Workplace Safety Act doesn't cover them, and they aren't allowed to form unions to deal with grievances. For over a year, they've been saying this leaves them vulnerable and pushing for the same rights other workers have, rights they say may have helped save the labor ministry workers' life.
如果公务员死了呢？有罚则吗？对于机关会有影响吗？就是有法律和没法律，确实还是有那么点差别。虽然说我知道，对我还是必须，就是我理解这件事，就是说台湾的职业安全做得很不够，不管是劳工还是公务员不够，但是公务员是连法律都没有。
Demands for unions and workplace protections have been bubbling for over a year when a violent factory fire killed 4 firefighters. But today, there's also a new demand. They say this suicide isn't isolated, and it's high time to outlaw workplace bullying and for complaints to get an independent review so that bullying complaints don't get swept under the rug.
在现在，其实也有人因为跟消防局讨加班费，然后被调单位。然后被威胁这样子，其实这个我觉得都非常的荒谬，甚至最夸张的是，有人没有跟消防局有任何冲突，他只是单纯的加入了我们这个团体，他就被要求要退出了，他就被威胁了。
The protesters here today say they hope nationwide anger over this labor ministry employee's death will be what brings change. But a cabinet official sent to speak to them said there's nothing he can say. Any change will need time and the proper channels. This wasn't what the protesters wanted to hear.
我想这个制度面上，院长昨天已经有请各机关要赶快去做，还有权责机关就是要去做一个检讨跟研议啦。所以这边所以行政院会不会提版本？这个不是我能决定的，对。那你今天可以决定什么事？我今天就是把各位的诉求能够忠实完整的呈现上去，跟我们长官报告一样，那就是请我们必须要请所有的
陈情的长官都是这么说
Hurling papers printed with a government report that says the supervisor's behavior that may have led to the latest suicide wasn't actually bullying. These protesters are asked to clear off by police. But they say they won't stop pushing for a country where the same rules and rights apply to all. Alex Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Works by Ching-te, a Taiwanese artist renowned for his titanium sculptures, are on display at the Bowers Museum in California. It's Chen's first solo exhibition in the U.S., incorporating 20 of his sculptures. The works combine complex jewelry designs with brush painting. Chen has been working with metal as a medium for 3 decades. He says it's a difficult material to work with, but has special qualities.
它是有力量的，有生命力的。然后它是和谐的，它是隽永的，这是我所要表达的，不只是宝石的珍贵，我觉得生命力的珍贵更重要。
Chen's works will be on display in Los Angeles until April next year. An immersive performance exhibit has kicked off in Taipei, aiming to bring people together with a message of love. The exhibition blends music, dance, theater, and technology. It invites audiences to engage deeply with its messages of love, hope, and peace. Created by pianist Lu Jiahui during the chaotic time of war in the Middle East, the work reflects how art can become a sanctuary for the soul in the face of uncertainty.
所以我们希望透过音乐、美术无国界的力量，然后我们要传达我们的 message 出去，能够有一点善念跟正能量的循环回来。然后我们要献给在疫情还有战争受伤害的人们，给予他们在黑暗中的一点希望。
The exhibition will run each weekend through the end of November. Thank you for watching today's What's Up Taiwan. Before we go, here are some more images of Lu Jiahui's exhibit at Taipei 101. I'm Ethan Liu. Take care, and I'll see you next time.